Hey fellow geeks, it's the Crazy Englishman. Today I'm going to be going over one of my favorite franchises, which, as you guessed it, is Gojira. Godzilla has always stayed with me ever since I was a kid. Definitely one of my favorite kaiju films, and it started with I think the first one literally was Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, which I know is is a lot of people's least favorites, but definitely one of the early ones I saw. Destroy All Monsters was the major film that really resounded with me, and today I wanted to present two of my favorite Godzilla designs in the series. Now, that's not to say I dislike the other ones, but I really wanted to talk about these ones because they've stayed with me, and I will be talking about the later designs, the other designs down the line, but I just wanted to share with two of my favorites. Now, I'll be using my SH Monsterals to give you a good visual feel. This isn't necessarily a review of those figures, but they are so well designed and so well articulated that I feel they're the best to show you guys. So, without further ado, This is my top two favorite Godzilla designs. Hey guys, so starting off is the Mogi suit, which was presented from Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, and particularly this design through one of my favorite of the series, my favorite era, which is the Heisei era, because my introduction with the Heisei era was Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, which is one of my favorite films in the series, and so this is the design that really stayed with me ever since I was a kid, and now I'm an adult. I literally wanted to go out of my way to get this. Now, you'll notice the suit is the burning variety, or the meltdown Godzilla, which is by far my favorite version of the Heisei era Godzilla. Now, there are two variations of the Heisei era Godzilla. There's the 1985 one, I believe, which has kind of tusks-like in his mouth, but we're not going to be talking about that one today. But when I think of the Heisei era, this is the design I look at. It's brilliantly played by Kenpachiro Satsuma, and I'm pretty sure I butchered his name, but I'm really sorry. But this guy has done some of my favorite films in the Godzilla series. And one of my favorite films is Godzilla vs. Biollante. Just saying, love that film. So this design in particular, the reason I love this design. Now, in the Showa series, to give it a little background, the Showa series was very kid-friendly, very squat. I mean, it was just coming off kind of resounding the first two Godzilla films, like Godzilla 1954, and for some reason they decided that this metaphor of nuclear destruction should be very kid-friendly. Now, going into the Heisei era, that changed completely. Godzilla was turned into a destructive force of nature, which is by far my favorite iteration of the character, is the unstoppable force of nature, this god of destruction, which is very much present in the design of the Heisei era. You'll notice that the dorsal fins, I'll take this a little closer, are a lot more, well, plentiful, but also very more prominent. In the Showa series, they're very squat, very close to the body, similar to the 1954 one, whereas this one feels like he's been feeding off radiation, and it's just kind of grown out his back, which I love. And you'll notice there's quite a number of them in there. You've got these side spines as well as the main dorsal fins. Now, the other thing is the tail is a lot thicker. You'll notice when he walks, like, that it slaps from side to side. Like, it feels like a weapon on itself, which he does use as a weapon quite often when his foes get behind him and he swings. It's definitely a lot more destructive, and I love that. There's a bit more of a balance to him, and I guess they use that in the suit for the actor. It's a lot easier for him to kind of balance out with the heavy load that is his body. Because if you look at his body, it's a lot thicker. There's a lot bigger of muscles. The hands are a little smaller, but they're quite destructive on its own. The legs as well are... Everyone complained about the 2014 being fat. Well, Thunder Thighs here is a lot thicker, but I love it. The whole body feels like a giant tank, and he feels unstoppable, which Godzilla is. He is an unstoppable force of nature. One of the cool things with the face as well, in comparison to, say, the Showa series, which was a lot more squat, it feels more... I don't want to use the word realistic, because, again, we're talking about an atomic creature of destruction. The head, though, is more animalistic. It's less squat. The eyes are still centered, but they're a lot more intimidating. Now, I know my camera sucks at trying to get the definition of it, but they're a lot more aggressive, more glaring, which I really like. The spines as well naturally maneuver into his body, which the suit design was fantastic. Now let's talk really quickly about the burning variation, or like I said, meltdown version. The Mogi suit was converted to house, I think it was over 1,000 individual lights to make the glowing effect. Again, this is a shout out to SH Monster Arts, because they do fantastic work. I know it's not as prominent here on the video, but it's a little bit see-through, which is great because it gave that aura. Now, in the film Godzilla vs. Destroyer, which is, again, one of my favorite films, it's also one of the saddest, because it's the death of this suit, the death of this variation of the character. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's amazing. It's one of the best in the series. They also added a steam effect, which was great. However, Mr. Satsuma unfortunately passed out many times due to carbon monoxide incidences, and it would collapse on set. But when you see the film, his hard work and sweat and blood, it goes into the performance, and it pays off. Now, I will finish with this character with one last thing. The jaws actually have multiple layers. Now, this isn't really shown too much in the films, unless you're really paying attention. He actually has multiple sets of teeth on the inner part of the mouth, and it lends to that more aggressive design, which I really like. He also has some of the coolest attacks in the series. Now, Godzilla's known for of course, his atomic breath, but when he becomes burning Godzilla, he gets the red spiral atomic breath, which is a lot more powerful than the regular one, due to him over-exceeding his power limit due to the meltdown that's going on in his body, because his heart is essentially a giant nuclear reactor. So his power is just unstable, and he's venting all that energy, and it becomes the red spiral, because the regular Heisei era, he eventually gets the blue spiral breath, but this one just goes overboard, and he's just really powerful, which I love. So yeah, that's one of my favorite designs. I'll be moving on to the last one, and yeah, this design is just amazing. If you haven't checked out the Heisei era, definitely, it's one of my favorite eras of Godzilla's character. It's amazing.